What's up, everybody? It's Dan from Binder Boneyard coming at you from the office. Another wonderful Sunday. It is Mother's Day right now. I'm not sure when you're listening, but it is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, and you mother lovers as well. But you might hear some background noise. Steve's in the shop today working on a project, so there might be some random noises you'll hear in the background, and I can't do anything about it, so sorry. Appreciate everybody listening. It's really helpful when you tell people, when you post on Instagram or Facebook about listening to this podcast. The donators is nice. I see I've got 30 or 31 contributors now, or no, I'm sorry, 16 contributors. So, of the hundreds of thousands of listen hours that we've accumulated, 15 contributors, 16 contributors is a little discouraging, but I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep going. So anyway, I appreciate you guys that donate. Thank you, everyone that does. All you guys that like and subscribe and share, and not just here, but on YouTube and everywhere else. It's all very helpful. So appreciate it very much. And thank you for listening. So I put out a call on Instagram yesterday for some podcast suggestions, because I feel like I got in kind of a rut where I was covering the same things over and over again. And, and then I'm also hearing from people that are like, stop telling stories and just tell me about, voltage draw. And other people are like, stop talking about gear ratios and tell me a story. So, I can't please everybody, but I'm trying to cover everything, so at least there's a little bit of something for everyone. So I think I'm going to work on trying to get some guests, whether through Zoom or some other method of recording two people. I'm not sure how to go about it, but I'm going to try and do that. We'll have some future podcasts on projects that we did and the ins and outs of those. And I know that's kind of tough because it's all visual. So unless you've followed it on Instagram or Facebook, you really don't know what we're talking about. So that's going to test my vocabulary as far as descriptions and describing things and whatnot. So anyway, so today we're going to jump in with a good suggestion. I don't recall the guy's Instagram handle, and half the time the Instagram handles are not their name. So, sexyboy68, thank you for your suggestion. We're going to talk about what to keep in your Scout or International for off-road and, off-grid adventures. And I don't mean like overland or stuff like that. Like overlanding is a whole different thing that, that involves a lot of gear and prep and checkbook and whatnot. I'm more referring to day trip, off-road adventure, things that I've found helpful to have, and things that people pack that may be frivolous, that you think you're going to need and then you don't need. First of all, any international owner should not leave the house without at least some tools, at least some, a basic socket set, wrench set, the bare minimum of tools. And I mean, like, a 3/8 ratchet with a set of sockets from 3/8 to 3/4. And then a matching wrench set from 3/8 to 3/4. One wrench that you might want that a lot of kits don't have anymore, or that you don't see much of, is the 11/32. The 11/32 was used a lot in ignition stuff, like the little nuts that hold the wires on the coil. In the old days, they were 11/32. Or sometimes the nut that's on the starter wire, the S or I terminal on the starter, is an 11/32. Sometimes. Sometimes they're metric, and that's another frustrating thing. But, that's a wrench that a lot of kits don't have anymore, and then I recommend you sourcing one. You can maybe go a step further, and instead of having a regular box end wrench set, have a gear wrench style set, ratcheting end wrench. Those are handy, but I will say that they are not as durable. I have been in situations where I've had a wrench set, gear wrenches rolled up in a tool wrap in a toolbox that didn't get opened for 2 years. Well, somehow some moisture got in there, and when I didn't see it for 2 years, opened her up, and everything was rusty. And the gear wrenches, half of them had rusted solid. I know they have lubrication in the gear mechanism, but for whatever reason, those gear wrenches were ruined. And the other thing too is if you have them loose in like a steel toolbox or something, the vibration of being in there will wreck the mechanism sometimes. I don't know if you've ever seen a well outfitted service truck, but a lot of their wrenches and assemblies like that are captured in a foam or a specific wrench holder or something like that. They're not just loose. I mean, some of them are, I guess, but the well set up. And then I'm looking at like off-road racing, like the chase trucks and stuff like that. They are, they've got foam and holders in the toolboxes that keep the wrenches from bouncing around. So, that's something to consider, but also, like I said, I found that they've been a little less durable. If you're not concerned about it, then it's a good second option. But, wrench set, socket set, of course, a couple of flat screwdrivers, a couple of Phillips screwdrivers. I have a few nut drivers because of hose clamps. I absolutely hate using screwdrivers on hose clamps because you can't seem to get them tight enough, or if you can't get the right angle on it, you can't get access. Whereas like nut drivers or a 1/4-inch socket set with a couple of those sockets, and that's the other thing is you don't need to carry an entire socket range in 1/4-inch. Like you just don't. You don't need a 1/2-inch, 1/4-inch drive socket. If you have a 1/2-inch end wrench and a 1/2-inch 3/8 socket, you just, I don't feel like that's necessary. But if you want to have a 5/16 and a 1/4 and a 3/8 socket for your quarter drive for something small like hose clamps, or getting at the U-joints, the strap bolts on or yoke on a U-joint or something like that, then that makes sense. But it does not make sense to carry an entire 1/4-inch kit. Same with big sockets. If you have a 1/2-inch drive ratchet and you really only need to carry like the bigger stuff, 5/8, 11/16, 3/4, whatever your lug nuts are, 3/4 or 13/16, stuff like that. Like, you don't need to carry the entire array of tools, because 95% of the time, if you're fixing it on the side of the trail, you just can't use all those tools. You're just not going to. The chances that you're going to be rebuilding a transmission, or pulling a transfer case, and even if you pull a transfer case, it's like 4 wrenches and a socket. It's minimal. A lot of the hardware on the Scouts is all the same size. So it just, don't overdo it by taking tons and tons of tools. You do need to have, like I say, the basic full array of 3/8 and of box end wrenches. But after that, you can have, or you run, if you are going to carry a 1/2-inch ratchet for bigger stuff, have a 1/2-inch to 3/8 adapter. So if you do have a smaller fastener that you need the leverage of a 1/2-inch ratchet, then you just snap your adapter on there and hopefully don't break that off. So again, that being said, get a high quality one. There's two camps when it comes to truck tools, and there is the buy the cheapest Harbor Freight you can get, because it's probably going to get stolen, rusty, broken, lost on the trail, loaned out and never got back. Or then there's the put the best tools that you can afford in there, because if you're stranded and you're getting back to civilization is dependent on the quality of your tools, then you want the best. And I can see both camps on that. And so what I normally do is I run swap meet and garage sale Craftsman. Generally, you can put together a Craftsman box end wrench set at a swap meet for $5 or $6. It's not terribly expensive. Or garage sale, hit a garage sale, find there's usually Craftsman everywhere. So it's a good middle of the road compromise. You're definitely going to want a hammer, at least like a 1 pound ball peen hammer, a chisel, very sharp chisel. You're going to want a punch, a long, 10-inch long pointy punch, snap ring pliers, because the locking hubs have a snap ring in there that you kind of need to get off. That's, for the most basic of basics, that's it for hand tools. Really, a pair of channel locks, larger channel locks would be good. Of course, a crescent wrench, for whatever reason. I carry 2 crescent wrenches. I've got a little, like 6-inch one, for smaller fasteners that might have, been metric or something. And then I carry a larger, heavy one. That's really about it for the majority of the stuff that you're going to be doing on the trail. Maybe an extension, a little, 4-inch extension for your 3/8 ratchet. And then of course you get into like electrical stuff. You gotta have a test light. Bare minimum, you have to have a test light. That's just so helpful in diagnosing, if power is getting anywhere and any problems like that. A spool of 16 gauge wire, some butt connectors, ring terminals, various. I carry I don't know, probably 5 butt connectors and 5 ring terminals in a couple different sizes, and some spades in male and females. That's generally what you need to get by with. Of course, a roll of electrical tape to tape up your crappy connections. That's really. I mean, again, this is not permanent fixes. This is to get you off of the trail, get you home, get you back to civilization, get your headlights working again, so that you can at least see to get home. Something. But yeah, so we're getting a little bit out of the tools and into spare parts and stuff there. But fuses, of course. So I mean, electrical and hard mechanical, that's really about it. Scouts, like I said, scouts are real basic. So all the internationals are real basic. If you're good, you can make a truck run just by jumping from the battery to the plus side of the coil and hit the starter with a pair of channel locks, and it'll start and it'll run as long as that coil's got power. So even if your ignition switch is dead, if your whole dash is dead, if you had a dash fire or something and everything is dead, you can still make the truck run by powering up the coil and jumping across the terminals on the starter, and it'll start and you can drive it. As long as your key didn't lock the column. D series is up until 74 didn't have that problem, but yeah, if your Scout 2 has a column lock, make sure the ignition still works. Otherwise, you gotta break that out, or you have to pull the steering wheel off to remove the lock plate. But it's just, you don't have to over complicate it. I see guys carrying just tons and tons of tools and but no parts. Like, you got all these tools, but where's the fuel pump? Where's the water pump? Where's the whatever it was you thought you were going to change? So yeah, if you're going to go that level of prepared, then you are going to carry spare parts in the Scout or truck for whatever adventure you're on. Then the bare minimum for me is water pump, fuel pump, and that can be a replacement mechanical that you just unbolt the old one, bolt a new one in, or an electric if you're inclined enough to put one in line and wire it up. The electrics are handy because on longer adventures, and I've been in this position where we've had to pump fuel out of another truck or container to put into a Scout, and there was no way to transfer it. I mean, I guess you could have tried to siphon it, but all we had was 3/8 or 5/16 fuel hose, and it just, siphoning it like that would have taken forever probably. But we could have undone a line under the truck and tried to catch it in something, but at the time we didn't have much for some of my adventures happened years ago before I know what I know now. So yeah, we didn't have a can, didn't have a bucket, but we had an electric fuel pump and some fuel line. So that's how we transferred fuel from one truck to another. But now we know a little bit better. But anyway, so that can go either way. Carry another mechanical or keep an electric for more versatility, maybe. But be prepared that if you're going to do an electric, that you need more wire. Your spool is 16 gauge, unless it's like 100-footer, you might need more wire. Hose clamps in various sizes are always helpful, and this is where having your nut driver would come in, or your 1/4-inch socket. But yeah, fuel pump, water pump, ignition coil. That's seems to be the one that always gets me. I've been stranded twice now because of coils. If you're running a Pertronix, they have they'll run for 20 years or they'll fail after 15 minutes. The Pertronixes, I love them. We put them in everything, but man, sometimes they'll fail in just the worst possible time. So either carry a second Pertronix, or you keep your original point set. And that's what we do on all of our conversions, is when we take the points out of a customer's distributor, we put them in a Ziploc bag, we put them in the glove box. And then if, for whatever reason, if your Pertronix fails, you can put the points back in and get out. I personally, this is because I'm me, I carry a whole other distributor. I have a Holley points distributor with Pertronix in it and a cap on it and everything ready to go, so that if I ever had a problem, I can just change out the entire distributor. And we had a customer's distributor fail one time, and it actually was the bushing in the base of the distributor that it ate itself up, and it wasn't oiling, or something happened, or there was sand in it. I don't know. It came from another vendor, and it lasted like 1,200 miles. Anyways, it stranded that customer in the middle of Arizona. So, he was screwed. And so I think about all of my long road trips that I take with the gas-powered trucks and all that. And so I just carry a fully loaded distributor for whatever reason. And, if you're in a group, sometimes it's not you that needs the part. Sometimes it's a friend or whatever, and their stuff fails, and they might not need the whole distributor. They might just need the cap or the rotor or the Pertronix or a plug wire or something else, So, that's up to your discretion. I don't recommend anybody carrying a fully loaded distributor, especially if weight is a concern, because you really start loading stuff like that, and it can really add a lot of unnecessary girth to your haul. So, but I just look at stuff that is an absolute make or break it, get out of the woods kind of thing. So yeah, water pump will stop you, a fuel pump will stop you, a coil will stop you, whatever does your ignition will stop you. A U-joint. I just carry one 1310 Spicer, because if I lose a rear U-joint, I can just lock in the hubs and you just get out in front-wheel drive. Or if you're in a really bad area and you really need 4-wheel drive, then you just change the U-joint that failed. And I also have extra U-bolts, the little U-bolts that hold the U-joints in. I have an extra set of those because I've been in the rocks. I've hit rocks and stuff that have mangled those yokes, and then it let the cap of the U-joint fall off or walk out, and that's how I ruined the U-joint. Well, I can't just put a new U-joint in and put crappy old U-bolts back in, so I always carry a fresh set of U-bolts as well. So some of you guys running LS swaps, or however your transfer cases are set up, you might have something different. You might have a strap style setup, or you got a slip yoke. or whatever, but you still need U-joints. What else? Yeah, it's just really basic stuff. I mean, again, for me on my distance, because I cover thousands of miles sometimes, I carry an extra set of wheel bearings with a wheel seal. I carry an axle U-joint. The 760X Spicer is what the Scouts use, and the larger axle shafts. I don't know the part number offhand for the smaller U-joints that like the 60s trucks had, or the Scout 80s. I don't know. I don't remember that U-joint size, but yeah, the larger ones was the 760X. Again, it's all Spicer. I try and run Spicer everywhere I can just because it's just good stuff. Yeah, I really, I guess you could throw in a pair of vice grips, a couple of pairs, like a needle nose vice grip and a standard, parrot beak vice grip. That would be handy to have for whatever reason. You probably want a pry bar, maybe an average, 14, 16-inch pry bar probably would be helpful to have. Yeah, I'm really, you don't want to overdo it and carry around all this junk that you're never going to use. But at the same time, you don't want to be underprepared and then be the guy that's causing everybody trouble on the trail. So there's kind of a happy medium in there where you need to really think about your potential problems, what you need to carry, what it takes to fix it, and and that whole thing. Yeah, I guess don't forget your fluids. Make sure you have a couple quarts of oil, a couple quarts of ATF or steering fluid, a pint of brake fluid, gallon of water, at least a gallon of water for the truck and a gallon of water for yourself. Like that kind of stuff that should be kind of, I don't want to say common knowledge, but yeah, you definitely don't want to go off on some adventure without any fluids at least. And that's part of why we invented the medicine cabinet, is so that, you could stash these fluids out of sight and they're just there. It's not like ATF goes bad in the container out of the sun. It's locked away. Just having the fluids there is important. And then you can also fit a very small tool wrap in there that's even, could be more basic. Couple of wrenches, some pliers, some vice grips, and get a lot done with that as well. We've sold customers multiple medicine cabinets. Like if you've got a Terra or a Traveler, then one holds fluids and one holds tools. Stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, it just comes down to what you're planning on doing, what your adventure plans is, where you're going, how the condition of your truck. Like if you're just driving around a rattle trap, then you probably want to be a little more prepared than if you've just got a brand new, new Legend from Anything Scout, and like there's different levels of being prepared based on the condition of your vehicle. My Black Scout, my crawler, I don't carry hardly anything in there because it's durable, it's proved itself, and if it does break, it's going to be a break that I can't fix on the trail. I'm not going to be rebuilding a transfer case on the trail. That's when it shifts more into recovery mode. So I guess real quick we can touch on that. Make sure you've got good recovery points front and rear of the truck. Don't rely on your receiver hitch to be your only recovery point on the rear end, because a lot of times that's not the safest. Make sure you've got some hooks or something on the front end. Don't pull on the shackles. That's bad for the shackles and suspension. So make sure there's a couple of holes up there that you can run some bolts through and actually put legit hooks on. So try that. Don't weld anything right to the frame. I don't trust that. So and make sure you always carry a strap or two. I carry I got a 30-foot, 30,000 pound yank strap, and then I carry a short, like a 10-footer that you use to go like around a rock if you're winching, or around a tree if you're going to winch. Don't ever put your winch cable right around a tree. That is bad for trees, and it's bad for your winch cable. Carry a couple of D shackles, at least 3/4 inch ones. And that's really about it. If you can afford a winch, I recommend you get one sooner than later if you're going to be doing a lot of adventuring. And if you do put a winch on it, I recommend a second battery. See how this snowballs? See how this turns into a giant snowball where you add one thing, which needs another thing, that needs another thing, that needs another thing. So, be honest with yourself as far as what you're going to be doing, your adventure plans, and how prepared you need to be. It's just the realistic side of it. But yeah, I know this kind of morphed from a tools to carry to a life lesson podcast, but that's a good enough to get started. Fine tune your toolkit based on your experiences, based on how your Scout is set up or your truck is set up, and just kind of build from there. It's taken me years to figure out what I need. And as far as like the black truck goes, I'm still kind of putting in and taking out things that I don't need or didn't want, thought I needed, and then can't use. Because that truck's only been on the road for a year and a half now. So, whereas setting up a kit for a Scout, that's easy. I can put that together with garage sale tools in an afternoon. So, anyway, hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully you learned something. I'm sure I'll hear about it if you didn't. And thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, I'm Dan from Binder Boneyard.